In the biting grip of a relentless Montana winter, where the snow fell like a shroud over the endless plains and the wind howled with the fury of forgotten spirits, a lone Apache woman named Iona knelt before the rugged frontiersman, her dark eyes wide with desperation as the frost clung to her tattered shawl like cruel diamonds. Her voice, cracked from days of wandering without shelter, pierced the frozen air as she clutched at his boots, her words tumbling out in a mix of broken English and her native tongue, pleading not to be abandoned to the merciless cold that had already claimed her kin, offering in return the warmth of her bed every night, a promise born not of seduction but of sheer survival, a raw bargain from a soul teetering on the edge of oblivion. The man, Elias Hawthorne, a weathered trapper with scars etched deeper than the canyons he roamed, paused on his horse, his heart twisting unexpectedly at the sight of her frailty amid the vast, unforgiving white expanse, wondering if this encounter was fate's cruel jest or a chance to redeem his own haunted past. If you believe in the power of kindness and the beauty of second chances, hit that like button, drop a comment below sharing your thoughts, share this video with someone who needs a reminder of humanity's warmth, and don't forget to subscribe to Moments of Love for more stories that touch the soul. Elias had come to these northern territories years ago, fleeing the ghosts of a civil war that had left him hollow, his hands stained with memories of battles fought under divided flags, where brother turned against brother and mercy was a luxury few could afford. He built his life on solitude, trapping furs along the Missouri River's frozen banks, his cabin a sparse refuge against the elements, filled only with the echo of his regrets and the occasional crackle of a dying fire. The Apache people were strangers to him, tales whispered around campfires of fierce warriors displaced by the encroaching rails and settlements, their lands carved up like spoils of war. But Iona was no warrior, she was a survivor of a raided village far to the south, driven north by pursuers and starvation, her family scattered or lost to the bullets and diseases that followed the white man's advance. When she appeared at his doorstep that fateful evening, her body trembling from exposure, her plea hung in the air like smoke, challenging everything he thought he knew about isolation and self-preservation. He could have ridden away, leaving her to the wolves that prowled the night, but something in her eyes, perhaps the reflection of his own loneliness, stayed his hand, and against his better judgment, he dismounted, leading her inside where the fire's glow began to thaw not just her limbs but the barriers between them. As the days blurred into weeks, the challenges mounted like the snowdrifts piling against the cabin walls, testing the fragile alliance they had forged in that moment of desperation. Iona's presence disrupted Elias's routine, her unfamiliar ways clashing with his stoic habits. She spoke little at first, her silence a shield against the pain of her uprooted life, but in the quiet hours by the hearth, she shared fragments of her story, the raid that stole her husband and child, the endless trek through deserts and mountains, evading soldiers who saw her people as obstacles to progress. Elias, in turn, wrestled with his own demons, the nightmares that jolted him awake, reliving the charge at Gettysburg where he lost his brother, the guilt that made him push away any hint of connection. The winter deepened its hold, storms raging outside that confined them together, forcing confrontations with their vulnerabilities. Food grew scarce as game hid from the blizzards, and Iona's knowledge of foraging in harsh lands became their lifeline, teaching Elias to read the subtle signs of buried roots and hidden springs beneath the ice. Yet prejudice lingered like a shadow, Elias's ingrained fears from frontier tales making him question her intentions, while Iona battled the resentment of relying on a man from the world that had shattered hers, her offer of warmth turning into nights of shared silence under blankets, where proximity bred tentative trust but also stirred unspoken tensions. The narrative of their unlikely bond unfolded with the slow melt of spring's approach, each day layering emotional depth as they navigated the raw edges of survival and humanity. Vivid scenes played out in the cabin's dim light, Iona mending Elias's torn coat with deft fingers calloused from years of crafting, her movements a dance of resilience that reminded him of his late mother's quiet strength, Elias teaching her to handle his rifle, his rough hands guiding hers, a gesture that bridged their worlds even as it evoked the violence that had separated them. Relatable in their flaws, Elias's gruff exterior masked a yearning for forgiveness he couldn't grant himself, while Iona's fierce independence hid a well of grief that threatened to drown her spirit. The struggles intensified when illness struck, a fever sweeping through Iona like a prairie fire, her body racked with shivers as Elias tended to her with herbs she had gathered, his fear of losing this unexpected companion revealing the cracks in his armored heart. Suspense built as whispers of encroaching settlers reached them through rare encounters with passing traders, rumors of bounties on wandering natives stirring Elias's protective instincts, forcing him to confront whether he would defend her against his own kind or betray the fragile peace they had built. Change crept in gradually, like the first green shoots piercing the snow, transforming their coexistence into something profound and unbreakable. Elias found himself opening up during long evenings, recounting tales of his youth on a Virginia farm, the dreams shattered by war, and in listening to Ayana's stories of Apache legends, the stars as guides for lost souls, the earth as a mother who never abandons her children, he began to see the world through eyes unclouded by division. She, in turn, discovered solace in his steadfastness, her offers of warmth evolving from desperation to genuine affection, nights where their shared bed became a sanctuary of whispered confidences and gentle touches that healed old wounds. The pace of their journey mirrored the seasons, rhythm, steady and immersive, allowing emotions to swell without rush, the heart-pounding fear during a wolf attack where they fought side by side, backs pressed together in the swirling snow, the tender relief when Ayana recovered from her fever, her hands seeking his ingratitude, the building suspense as a posse of ranchers appeared on the horizon, drawn by tales of a savage woman in the area, testing Elias's loyalty in a standoff that could shatter everything. As the thaw finally broke winter's siege, revealing rivers swollen with renewal, the climax arrived in a storm of confrontation and revelation, where Elias stood firm against the intruders, his rifle raised not in aggression but in defense of the life he had come to cherish, declaring in a voice steady with newfound purpose that Ayana was no threat but a part of his world now, her presence the warmth that had melted his frozen soul. The men backed down, perhaps sensing the conviction in his eyes or moved by the sight of Ayana emerging from the cabin, her posture proud despite the fear, but the true change had already taken root within them both, Elias shedding the weight of his past, embracing a future intertwined with hers, and Ayana finding not just shelter but a home in the heart of a man who had once been a stranger. Their story culminated in a quiet vow under the emerging stars, a commitment to forge ahead together, wandering no more but building a life on the fringes where cultures blended like the merging of rivers, inspiring a sense of hope that even in the harshest landscapes, compassion could bloom into enduring love. If this story of desperation turning to devotion has touched your heart, reminding you of the fragile beauty in human connections, please like, comment, and subscribe to keep these tales alive. Your engagement means the world. Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear from you. Comment below with the line, "Kindness warms the coldest nights," if this tale moved you, and let's spread that warmth together.